Good evening. I think everybody has had a cup of tea in the afternoon or no? Good evening. Thank you very much for your gracious presence here. This is MA, you know well. We are going to have a very good, wonderful program and information from Mr. Vivek, who is an expert in his line. The center which we are meeting here is AMA. It's a Dr. Jaimin Vasa, MSME Development Center. This is where we are sitting right now. AMA set up this special activity center with the generous contribution of Dr. Jaimin Vasa, a progressive MSME entrepreneur and former president of GCCI, that is Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Dr. Vasa is the chairman and managing director, Vasa Pharmachem Private Limited, and a flagship company of Vasa Group of Companies manufacturing various industrial, chemical and pharmaceutical raw materials. The center has been established to conduct training programs, seminars and conferences with focus on MSME for raising productivity and improving operation, especially in the areas of industry, government, compliances, export management and facilitation, etc. We are fortunate to have today a very good speaker, Mr. Vivek Ogra. He is an expert into the transport and mobility system with over 25 years of experience and specializes in the areas of transport system, smart city design, e-governance, disaster management system, transit management system, etc. He has worked on a number of international projects in the capacity of technology specialists, have worked on projects in various countries including US, UK, Africa, Thailand, Malaysia, Middle East and India. More recent consulting assignments have been with several governments in Middle East and India for developing system of BRTS, we all know, that is brisk road transport system, have led to some of the marked transformation program globally involving emerging technologies, project management, test environment, validation, developing standard operation procedure for transport management and rollout strategies. Some of the recent work have been in the areas of strategies and framework for AI, we all know, artificial intelligence in transport of achieving efficiency, safety and resilience. Specialize in innovation-based transport system, product design and architect. So on behalf of AMA and myself, I would like to now offer a flower and a bouquet which we give as a token of love, as a memento from OMA. Thank you everybody, and now it is Vivek, it is your
to work. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to talk to you all today. Before I really start with the presentation, I would like to know a little bit about some of you, so that when I present use cases, I can kind of articulate it in a way that you can understand in your own fields. So are you, some of you are running small and medium enterprises? Or you're students, or you're studying, or you're trying to get into business? What is the profile? If some of you can tell me. Anybody? You're a student, okay. Student. Okay.
Actually, I worked with Google's first prize project.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So, so what I'll try and do today is, see, the subject is something that's very exciting. All of us must be reading about emerging technologies in one or the other way. It touches us every day in one or the other form. But when it comes to MSME, what does it really mean to MSME? And why is it critical that emerging technologies are adopted by MSME? Is it optional? Could you live without it? Is there something that needs to be done differently? You need to view these technologies differently. I'll try to demystify that to whatever extent I can. So I think first of all, what I really want to set a stage is MSME is backbone of the economic fabric of this country. Large number of organizations, small, medium, mid-sized, micro, they employ real huge numbers of people within the country, so huge employment generators. They contribute to a significant percentage as far as GDP share in the country is concerned. And they have been increasing at a steady 18% CAGR across last few years. What does that really mean to us? Is that for any country, a healthy MSME ecosystem is an indication of growth of that country. The better MSME is performing, the better economic fabric will be there in the country. So it's very important that MSME looks at business sustainability at the core of its design. And hence, that's the imperative why we are talking about technology today. So fundamentally, what are the challenges that MSME faces today? We are working in a globalized environment. You know, a few decades back, something that would happen in US or for that matter in any part of the world would not affect us much, because we would work, MSMEs would work domestically, they would look at their local businesses, would have operations limited in their geography and things like that. But today, when you look at a globalized environment, something happens in US in a supply chain affects us directly. A simple example I can tell you is you would have experienced during COVID that it's okay now. There was vehicle shortage. Every vehicle manufacturer had shortage of silicon, the chips that go in the vehicle. Now just imagine, China manufactures the chip, Taiwan manufactures chips, Malaysia manufactures chips. It affected the whole world. Today in US, getting a new car, you have a waiting of 6 months. Certain vehicles you just can't get. So that means any disruption in any part of the world, as small as silicon, can affect the whole global supply chain. MSME is a very, very important part of this whole fabric, because if you look at, and I'm taking this example because I understand that industry quite well. Automotive industry, if you have a large automotive manufacturer, it is supported by a host of ancillaries around it. Somebody is doing brake clutch, somebody is doing nut bolts, and somebody is doing something. So this whole of MSME cluster around it, which supports it to bring that vehicle to life, right? Now, if this globalization is not understood by MSMEs today, we certainly will not sustain for a very long period of time. So the first thing that any technology linkage is to understand that we are in a liberalized environment and we have global competition in front of us. While we will have a company based out of, let's say, Ahmedabad, but I might have my components coming in from any part of the world, and I might supply to any part of the world. So that way, a supplier, a manufacturer in Brazil is also my competitor, as is in Venezuela, or that for that matter in China or Thailand. So we will have to really look at a globalized view versus a localized view. That's the first challenge MSMEs have to navigate. Second is information asymmetry. So when you look at a small and medium enterprise, your efficacy to work on data is limited. Your ability to work on information that could aid your business growth is limited. And thus, in a globalized environment, that is an impairment. You really need to know where to supply, when to supply, to whom to supply. This is very, very important. Information asymmetry between even two suppliers is something that could kill your business. So how do we really look at this? This is a very, very big challenge. in terms of not knowing the right information and data could be a issue for your business. Third is fast changing regulatory requirements. Let's take a simple view. How many of you know GDPR in EU? Some of you might know, right? There's Information Privacy Act, right? Very, very stringent. Now, for example, if you're supplying a software to EU, your software has to be GDPR compliant, and it has very, very stringent requirements. Regulatory systems globally are changing very, very fast because there are huge technological changes that are happening. To meet with that change and disruption, regulatory framework is also kind of changing on an everyday basis. Look at stock exchanges in the world. Crypto, you've been talking about so much, right? How is crypto influencing businesses and so on and so forth? So that's third very important thing. Fourth is globalized supply chain, which I talked in the early on, that MSMEs can become very, very productive, cost efficient, only if you have a very efficient globalized supply chain understanding, because where to source, when to source, how much to source is very, very important, because you are running a small enterprise, right? And last is serviceability and sustainability. When you look at a globalized environment, how can you serve your clients globally with a very, very small footprint? You have to be absolutely efficient to serve your client anywhere in the world. And lastly, sustainability. Everything that you do in your organization has to be sustainable. Now, sustainability would mean different to different people. Sustainability for somebody would mean less paper, more digital. Sustainability for somebody would be probably more health conscious, less carbon, carbon neutral, net zero. There's so much that sustainability will talk about. Ultimately, we're talking about business sustainability. So if we are really looking at all of these imperatives, I will try to demystify how emerging technology can help you navigate this. Because ultimately, you are going to adopt technology to make your business better, your opportunities work for you, and so on and so forth. So I think these are very important points that lead you to the usage of technology. So just to get started, today emerging technology is a key element of survival and growth for MSME. It plays pivotal role in sustainability of an environment. So this is key to us understanding that technology adoption, and that to emerging technology, it is not to ensure that you're automated, you got big gadgets, you got applications that are consumer facing. It's fundamentally about sustainability. How can you run your business in a sustainable manner? How can you have growth year on year, which means that you're running along with the global growth requirements? Second, emerging technologies have made it easier to innovate, because innovation is something that will make you relevant. Unless you innovate, you will not remain relevant to the market. Second, your nimble footedness. See, what is the difference between a large corporation and a small corporation? Large corporation change management takes a lot of time, because so many people, systems, and processes to be changed. For a small corporation, which is nimble footed, you have higher adaptability. Emerging technologies do help you to actually deliver a nimble footed approach to your business, so you can adapt faster to the needs of the market. Finally, technologies like cloud infrastructure, AI, ML, IoT, so we'll talk about each one of it, will certainly help you compete globally and bring business sustainability at the core of your function. So that's primarily what I believe is important. Let's talk about the first thing. See, when you look at an enterprise and you set up an enterprise, what is the first thing generally you would do? You would ask your IT to set up, let's say, accounting system, supply chain system, inventory management to make it simple, and then you have HR system and so on and so forth. That's your basic system. You go along, then you talk about CRM. Customer, I need to know my customer. KYC is very important, because only when you know your customer better, you will serve the customer better. So oftentimes you end up doing all of this in-house. What that really means is you're saddled with lot of infrastructure cost, which is upfront, capital investment. Keep in mind that MSME has only limited resources to work with, whether that is financial resources, human capital, or otherwise. So the best thing to do is conserve your financial capital. Now, the moment you talk about capital investment, it's your financial capital going in there, right? Now, what cloud technologies really talk about is you don't own the infrastructure, you lease the infrastructure. And you lease only as much you need today and don't bother about tomorrow. And hence, it is a operational expense versus a capital expense. For MSME, it's very important another aspect that when you look at emerging technologies to meet your demands of growth, what are the imperatives of growth? Your customer landscape is changing, your product landscape is changing, your customer requirements are changing continuously. Now, assume you have developed something in-house, you hosted it in-house, your servers in-house, everything is in-house. And now, suddenly your customer landscape is changing. What does it mean? More capex. You're investing more to meet that demand. What cloud allows you to do is do not own the infrastructure, but on an ongoing basis, you add operational expenses and become nimble-footed. You've heard of software as a service, right? Today, if you talk about financial accounting system, you talk about supply chain management, you talk about CRM, talk about any kind of software that you require in your enterprise. Everything is available pay-per-use model. That means you will pay for only as many licenses as you will require, and hence you're paying only as much that your business requires you to get the work done. In capital expenditure, you're paying everything upfront. What does this mean? That you can invest that money in innovation, you can invest that money in expansion, you can invest that money on customer acquisition, business acquisition, rather than funding hardware or software for that matter. So cloud essentially allows you to become more efficient financially from the organization perspective and from efficacy of the organization perspective. I think, do not look at it as a technology resource. Look at it as a business augmentation resource. That's very, very important to understand. Oftentimes we get caught up with the fact that I need to have technology which is as good as anybody else. That approach itself is wrong. You need to have technology what is good for you, and cloud helps you to curate that for you, right? So I think cloud brings different capabilities to each company depending on what they want. Now, cloud can be divided into platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service, depending on what kind of need you have. For example, you have an in-house developed software. You do not have access to a commonly used software. How would you use cloud in that case? You would use it as a infrastructure as a service. You have your own software, put it on the infrastructure, and so you're leasing only infrastructure. That's how you navigate to your cloud journey. But let's say you have some products, but you need the base platforms to work on it. Microsoft, Oracle, others, then it's platform as a service. So it depends what kind of system are you really navigating, what kind of resources that you have, and how do you really work with it. Now, let me give you an example. Bosch is a very large technology provider to automotive industry, to industrial development per se globally. They provide very critical components to a lot of vehicle manufacturers such as BMW, Mercedes, Audis of the world. Now, they serve their customers globally. When you open the engine of your vehicle, a lot of critical components around the engine are from Bosch. Now, what Bosch realized is that how can they become more profitable? How can they ensure that the services that are delivered to the customers across the world, imagine different languages, different cultures, different geographies, how can they ensure that the quality of the service remains same across the board? The only way you can do that is if you can mechanize the process of service delivery. So what they did is they created a augmented reality platform, and the service partner who is in the service workshop doesn't have to open the manual, opens an iPad, shows it to the engine, it recognizes which engine is it, which model is it, and it dissects the whole engine. So the service partner has to go step by step as this augmented platform is telling him to do. Now, what that really means is thousands of people globally are doing the same thing in the same stepwise manner and delivering the same quality. Why? How was it possible? Because it is hosted in cloud. Otherwise, just imagine if they have 20,000 people, 50,000 people using this platform, and it was a in-house hosted platform, how much of money would they spend in managing this platform, right? That's how cloud really allows you to become nimble-footed, brings economies of scales, delivers the cost of service, and hence the margins. Now, cloud also, incidentally, works a lot on your EBITDA enhancement. See, oftentimes when you look at technology talk, people will always focus on the technology per se. But as I said in the beginning, technology is an enabler of business. It's as simple as that. Right? And end of the day, you're doing business because you want better EBITDA. It's as simple as that. More money. And how do you realize that? That's how you should use this technology. So the benefits are you can develop applications on the fly. There's a concept called sandbox. For example, you're developing something which is very native to your business. You don't have commercial applications available, but the base platforms of the cloud are available. So you go to Amazon, you go to Microsoft, you go to any of those service providers, they'll provide you a sandbox environment, test it there, develop it there, deploy it there, and you're elastic. So it's very, very fast, easy, pay as much you use, and hence economies of scales. You can run all of your services as far as your technology is concerned and on the cloud itself. So the benefit predominantly, while I will not talk about everything that is written there, scalability. When you are going from a micro to medium to mid-size to large size, what do you require? Ability to be elastic in your business. Cloud allows you to expand alongside your business. So you can spend only as much is equivalent of the growth that you're seeing in your business. Efficiency is an enabler in cloud itself because you are spending only as much as required. Disaster recovery. For example, a lot of these systems that you own in your office, let's say there's a fire in the office. What do? Nothing. Gone. You have backup. It takes time to get back the backup and things like that. But when you talk about cloud, you have a replicated environment somewhere else. This goes down, there's somebody else, some other system that's going to come, 100% reliability. So I think it's very important that business continuity in your business function is provided by cloud native to it. And finally, if you look at mobility, when you are a small company and you are growing every month, every year, you would experience that you're going to change your offices, you're going to add offices, you're going to move from place to place, right? Because those are the environments that are fundamental to your growth. If you have internal systems, mobility cost is very high because you have to set up your networks, you have to set up your data center, do all of that. The moment you're on cloud, you can start your next office next day. Because it's all about connectivity. Just have internet connectivity, you're all sorted out, right? Again, security, very important. When you talk about cloud infrastructure fundamentally offers you native security. So whether that is authentication of users, data security, cyber security, all of that is as a service available to you. And now if you had to imagine use all of those important things in-house, how much would it cost? So for MSME, I believe going on cloud is an imperative. You should focus on not building IT paraphernalia around your business, but to use IT as an enabler and spend as much less and as appropriately you can. So let's go to AI and ML, right? Again, something which is very, very exciting. The development of AI and ML is at a huge pace happening in every space that we are in today. Everything that you touch today, you are going on Uber, AI ML. You go on Ola, AI ML. You go on BRT bus, AI ML. There's one or the other form, AI ML will touch your life every day. You have your phone in your hand. There's a whole lot of AI ML happening that right now without you using the phone, right? Google knows where you are. Google knows which application you opened, how many times you opened, what ad should be posted to you. You go on a Google search for a shirt, Arrow shirt, and suddenly you go on Amazon and you see an Arrow shirt ad there. It follows you everywhere, right? So you see AI ML in everything that you do today. Now, what if you really look at the definition, artificial intelligence is the ability of a digital computer or a computer controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings, right? Now, why is AI ML important? There's only as much ability as humans we have to comprehend certain kind of outcomes, right? For example, large amounts of data. We can do only as much computation. A common example of computation was Excel, where you could have put data and then you do pivot tables and you do some formulas here and there. Statistics, for example, is a base for your ML, where you use a lot of statistical models, regression being one of those common models that are being used. Now, if you really look at AI ML in MSME, a lot of oftentimes I have been asked this question: isn't it costly to use AI ML? Can a micro enterprise really adopt AI ML? The answer is very simple. You see thousands of startups around us. Forget about the startups which are funded. Bootstrap guys, they're using AI ML. They're solving AI ML, problems through AI ML. How do they do that? There are host of free tools available on internet, on GitHub, which are ready to run tools. You just need to download them, start using, hire one guy who can get you an AI ML algorithm. Algorithm as a service has started in the industry today. You want specialized algorithm, you can just talk to some of these companies which are doing algorithm as a service. Tell them this is an algorithm I want, 10 days you're out with the algorithm, you're done. You deploy it in your environment. So AI ML is allowing companies to become really, really innovative in weeding out inefficiencies in the process. Let's talk about a very simple process. And there's an example here for a logistics long haul company. This company has some 100 vehicles, and it does normal logistics, point to point, point to multi-point, and things like that. When they used AI ML actually was able to understand how the vehicles are moving across its landscape, and are they efficiently moving. Pickups and drops, are they efficient or not? And it was able to weed out efficiency and tell them that the rerouting algorithm should be like this, and they were able to control about 20% of the inefficiency. That means if your margins were, let's say, 15% in your business, and AI ML gives you 20% more, it's 35% margin in your business. It's as simple as that. Again, I'm relating it to the financial prudence in your business. AI ML is again not about technology. It can be used in many ways, as many ways, to make your business more efficient, right? Now, another example I can give you about AI ML is You all of you must be using banking apps, and you have Ask Me button there, where you say the bank says, "Ask me a question," and suddenly there are responses. So the bot says, "Okay, what's your account number? What do you want? You want to order check?" You say yes. He said, "Okay, ordered." What is that? That's a AI/ML bot, which is understanding your natural language as you write it. It is able to relate it to your customer needs. It's able to understand, okay, you gave a customer number, it will go and find customer details and say, okay, you want your balance, here is your balance. You want services from the bank, these are the 10 services we can give you. So it's a form of AI ML, which is a bot, which is used by banks to reduce cost of interaction. If you really look at banks, they have a huge customer interaction cost, where call centers are deployed for physical conversations. Now AI ML based bots have reduced 70% of that payload. Now just imagine the amount of money that you're saving just by employing AI ML in your business. Similarly, when you have a global footprint, for example, as a MSME, how can AI ML help you now? It can help you have more conversations per person in your organization. That means you're able to reach out to more customers in a more methodical manner. Higher customer satisfaction. Higher customer satisfaction leads to higher business. Simple relation, right? Similarly, when you have mundane tasks within your business, you have softwares where you have multiple data entry ports, right? Data is being is redundant. It's being added at multiple levels. This all can be automated. There are no people required to do that. So because bots can automate this interaction and this data can go in. So simple application in a MSME is to automate your internal processes. Use a bot to do that. So you save on the human resource, deploy that human resource somewhere else, maybe on the shop floor, add a line, do whatever. So it's not about, again, a lot of people feel AI ML is going to take away the jobs. The answer is no, clearly, because AI ML is also creating new industry. You also need people who can build bots. You also need people who can build new machines. So I think, our skills are shifting, our priorities are shifting. AI ML certainly allows you to become more financially prudent as far as your organization is concerned. So the benefits are very clear. It reduces time to your business because it weeds away the mundane tasks. It lowers the cost of operations and ultimately gives you a better EBITDA as far as business is concerned. It improves service. See, again, when I said bot, there's high predictability in the way the interactions will happen. Bots will interact only in as many ways. People will interact in as many different ways that people think they can, because there are mood swings. I was talking to this morning, some random call from a bank. He said, "Do you want a loan?" I said, "No." He said, "No, we can give you interest, lowest interest in the." I said, "I don't want a loan." So the female, pushed me again. So, "But why don't you want a loan?" I said, "I have money, I don't want loan," right? Now this is a female who doesn't understand when I said no, no means no. And then I'm sure all of you must be getting calls, right? Human calls vary depending on the, वो लड़के आया है घर से, रास्ते में एक्सीडेंट हुआ तो वो कॉल पे निकलेगा. But bot doesn't have an accident. Bot doesn't have mood swings, right? It will talk similarly to everyone. So the capability to be able to standardize your conversation, quality standardization, that's an outcome of AI ML, right? So I think that's how you will have to really look at emerging technology helping you do better in your business. And finally, I think it also talks a lot about security in your business. Small and medium enterprises are also very of somebody knowing my client. If somebody knows my client, I have only as many clients, I need to secure my turf, right? AI ML can mask and help you do that. So you can secure your turf, you can secure your business, you can secure your transactions, you can do all of that. So when we go along with the presentation, I'll tell you how that is done. So that's about AI ML. There are hundreds of examples. In fact, I said, you touch AI ML every day, right? When you are in your vehicle and you start navigation on Google, you are using AI ML. When you say pit stops, you are giving data to AI ML to curate your journeys better. So next time when you log in, it knows where your home is. It says press button home and it'll take you there. That's AI ML, right? So I think, nutshell, AI ML is everywhere. It's all pervasive. It depends how you really want to use it in your context. Third one, augmented reality and virtual reality. A lot of you must be reading about it today because there's a whole new world, metaverse, which is coming up, and everybody is suddenly talking about a new metaverse coming up. In everything there is metaverse and things like that. All of that has been derived from here. So particularly, and there are a lot of other reality realms in digital as we talk about mixed reality and etc. But I'll limit my discussion to augmented and virtual reality. So fundamental difference is virtual reality is a digital representation of the reality, and augmented reality is where you actually interact with the physical world and make certain tasks deliver better. That's a simple understanding of AR VR. Now, as I said, MSME, for example, you are an engine manufacturer in Rajkot and you want to supply to the whole world, and you want to also service. Now, in a product company, the cost of service is very high. Cost of travel is very high. For example, something conks off a supply that was done to Europe. Just imagine how much will it cost for an engineer to go there, set it up and come back. It eats out your profit. Doesn't allow you to become cost competitive. And suddenly there's somebody in Malaysia, Thailand, China who is going to do it at 1/3 cost of yours. So what will happen to your business? So augmented reality can be used to really take away all of these physical costs and train people to service your products better, faster, lowest cost, in the best quality manner. That's one. Second example of augmented reality is, see, when you're developing a product, what do? You do prototyping. Then you simulate the prototyping, physical prototypes, right? Then you put it in simulation environments. You make it run through different test environments, and eventually you feel, okay, this is the product I want to develop. Then it'll go in production. Huge cost. Prototyping is a huge cost to small and medium enterprises. Augmented reality now can allow you to reduce those costs. You can actually develop a product digitally, simulate the whole environment, look at how it's going to behave in different environments, and once you're reasonably sure, okay, this is the product which is going to work, show it to your customers. Okay, is this something that can work with you? For example, again, I'll take an example of Bosch. When Bosch builds new products for its suppliers, for its customers, they do this whole digital journey. There's an engine which is virtual, there's a component which is virtual, there's everything that is virtual, and they run the whole simulated vehicle and then say, okay, is there a better efficient product that we have developed? If no, then there is an iteration. Now, just imagine when you do a prototype, and oftentimes we go to China to do a prototype, one single prototype could cost as much as 15-20 lakh rupees, a simple prototype, iterations and things like that. The same thing in VR, AR could be developed at a fraction of a cost. That's a benefit to a MSME, because you can then use that money to rightly spend when the product has to be delivered. AR VR is also being extensively now used in medical services. You see where you have robotic surgeries. They are combination of different technologies, but then a lot of virtual, augmented, So you have a doctor who's sitting somewhere else. You have a robotic arm which is augmenting as a doctor, works seamlessly and things like that. We still are miles away from a real time kind of stuff. I'll come to that, how that's going to happen. But then augmented reality and virtual reality is something that certainly will help you deliver your better business outcomes, faster business outcomes at a lower cost of building the business and the products. Industrial IoT, I think all of you must be knowing, but just for the sake of building on the emerging technologies. Internet of Things is similar to Internet itself. IoT is combination of sensors, networks and applications which will deliver an automated experience, right? Now, for example, have you seen the new light poles in Ahmedabad? And they have a blue light in the middle of that pole. That's an IoT sensor. Now, what is that IoT sensor doing? It is networking each pole with each next pole. And there is then an IoT device which is looking at luminance, light in the day, and sets the luminance of the lamps. So you save on electricity. And who is doing that? Nobody. There's an IoT device, it's a software on it which is automated, can be run remotely, and a whole of city, the lights are run remotely. There's nobody. In the good old days, there used to be people who would go to junction boxes, switch on the light. It was an everyday affair, right? Today in Ahmedabad, nobody goes to junction box. It's all done by a control center in Paldi. And there's just one guy controlling all lights of Ahmedabad. So that's what IoT really brings in. Now, in industrial sense, when you really look at IoT, it brings in a lot of efficiency. For example, a simple example could be RFID enablement along a line in a factory, right? There's a product which has a RFID or IoT tag to it, let's say BLE Bluetooth tag to it, which is an IoT sensor. When it moves on the line, what it tells the next position in the line is what needs to happen to this product next, right? The robotic arm will pick certain thing. The moment there's a product coming here, there's a robotic arm which gives you a precise product to be put there or a component to be put there. Now, what happens with IoT is hugely efficient, highest quality, because robots don't get it wrong. That's the only job they do, right? They need to pick the right product or they will not pick. It's as simple as that. Humans may not differentiate between mm and mm, but robots differentiate between microns. So I think that's what IoT actually lets you do from the process perspective. So if you really look at the IoT benefits, it increases operational efficiency. You can do higher number of products per shift. It reduces the maintenance cost because there are no human interaction. They're all automated sequences. Whenever something has to go wrong, there's a predictability, predictive maintenance. All of that is inbuilt, and hence there are maintenance cycles which have to happen at a certain point in time. There is MTBF, which is mean time before failure. The IoT system knows that it does its job every day, every second in a defined manner. Supply chain optimization is important. For example, when you see IoT, IoT is not only used in the industry inside, but across the supply chain also, right? So IoT can actually automate your whole supply chain logistics process. And eventually, when you look at IoT, you don't look at it just from the device perspective, but from the whole fabric of your business delivery or a product delivery perspective or a manufacturing process. Blockchain technology is another one you must be hearing a lot about. Derivative of crypto is another derivative you're talking about. Now, particularly relevant to MSME. To me, when you look at business happening within the MSME companies, how can you do it digitally, and how can you do with highest trust? So you have smart contracts, right? See, what has happened in China is you have an industrial estate and you have got economies of scales as a fundamental to the lower cost to the market. And they all work in sequence, they all know what they can produce together, they all know they can do it in millions of pieces, and different factories will be in line and they will work as a single factory line and things like that. How are they able to do that? How are they able to settle with each other? Blockchain ledgers. There's huge trust in blockchain. You cannot change the chain, right? And hence there is no, you can't fudge it. You can't change the value. You can add a chain, you can't delete a chain, you can't delete the value. So smart ledgers could be one of those things that can happen in MSME clusters, where MSME partners can settle smart contracts with each other. So the four things that are very important in blockchain is consensus. See, blockchain is all consensus driven. Two people consent to do business, they will sign the smart contract, so there is no dispute. Second, replication. Once a block is created, it is approved, it can never be taken out. So there is a whole record keeping. You always know who did, when, why and how. Then security and other features. So I'll not go in detail because we'll need one full session if I have to really talk about how blockchain can be. But the application to me for blockchain and MSME is in clusters. When you can do that, I think there's a huge trust in doing business. In MSME, account receivables is one of those problems. Getting that to work for each one of a member in the cluster is a problem. So blockchain could be one of those digital trust providers that can be used. Finally, we have 5G. A lot of you might think that 5G is a faster internet. The answer is yes, it is. But fundamentally, 5G is revolution for industrial development. And simple example is, when our eyes flick and our perception, when you move, when you perceive something, what is the millisecond exposure for something for the brain to process? It's less than 5 milliseconds. No, that's why, when you drive, you're able to see multiple things and you're able to process distance, speed, safety, everything, less than 5 milliseconds. What is the latency that you have in the networks today? More than 20 milliseconds. So real time per se cannot be done in the networks today. That's one. Second, let me give you an appropriate example. Nokia did an experiment in Europe of building a wireless line. See, in industry, what you do is your whole manufacturing process is built along a physical line, network, right? And that's why you can't move that line. Rigid process. ये factory line ऐसे ही चलेगा. Unless you want to expand, there's new line, right? So Nokia said with 5G, they were testing 5G in their factory, and this was during COVID. There was shortage of the products, manufacturers, and so on and so forth. So the whole factory was on 5G, and all the factory lines were like Lego blocks. Now today you're making one product, and they would then shift it to make XYZ product. They were able to do that because they were not physically constrained from the network point of view. They were able to move their factory like a Lego block, right? Also, because 5G was giving them real-time, no latency network within the factory, right? So that means everything could be done in real time. They were able to produce 30% more within the same factory lines. So that's what 5G is all about. It's not about faster internet. It's about lowest latency in the market. So today you will have nearer networks. You will have more devices per network cell. Per kilometer, if you have, let's say, 10 devices today, just hypothetical numbers, you could have 20,000 devices tomorrow in the same footprint, because it's a local network, faster network, highest of 20 gigs per second kind of speeds. So I think 5G fundamentally is going to change a lot of what we do in our industrial processes, whether that is factory lines or that is real-time management of services in a city, smart city, for example. 5G is going to change a lot of capability. For example, you manage a lot of sensors, water sensors within the city. Dams, the controls are done by all the sensors. Vehicles, connected vehicles. For example, when we're talking about driverless cars, today in India we can't conceive a driverless car on a road that we drive. It's good that humans can drive. Otherwise, I don't think there's any algo which can drive car in Ahmedabad, right? Uh, so yeah, I mean, we're all superhumans here. But when you have 5G coming in, you will have much better control on your real-time networks in the city, on your traffic management, vehicle to infrastructure communication. So 5G fundamentally is an industrial revolution from the digital standpoint, rather than, see, today you have Netflix. With 4G it's good enough, you don't need more speeds. It doesn't buffer, right? You don't need more speed than that. So for home user, you don't need anything better. Even 4K movie works fine on your good broadband, right? But industrial guys, they need different kind of internet. They need less latency. See, robotic surgery. Just imagine what 5G can do to the medical industry. It's truly real time. Less than 5 milliseconds. That means even before a human can comprehend, the network can comprehend what. So just to let you know what is latency, it's a round trip of the data coming back to you, the interaction coming back to you. That's the latency, right? So if that's less than 5 milliseconds, it changes the whole dynamics of how you can work in your environments. So I think that's what I had in short for emerging technologies. There's a huge upside of how you can really use emerging technology in MSME. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Vivek. I think all of you have enjoyed the vast subject he has covered in, say, about 45 to 50 minutes. As you rightly said, we need a session from 9:30 to 1 at least to cover all this subject. And you have very simplified the MSME's importance, the sustainability, the information, AIML and whatnot. I think even something has also gone from my overhead. So anyway, we will keep a next session also. And for all of you, we are continuously making this kind of session every week or so. You can always visit AMA's site or website. You can find out what program is, on what date, and who will be the speaker also. So you can come and enjoy. Lastly, Mr. Vivek, we on AMA behalf and myself and all of these people, thank you very much for sparing your valuable time and making us simplify the importance of the MSME. And you have the forms with you. I shall be very happy if you can say fill up the feedback form and submit it to the somebody here. That person is here. You can take your time and fill it up and give us some feedback so that we can improve on our programs. So we can make new programs or new arrangements also. And thank you, all of you, for making this program a very, very important. And yes, we look forward for your presence once again in the next session also. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vivek.
Any questions?
Question answer we have.
How can we defend from malware attacks?
How can we?
Malware attacks
So cyber security is a subject in itself. Now, cyber security is getting embedded into everything that we do today. So it's not just about your businesses, but it's about your personal space as well, right? Your phone can have a malware attack. Your application in your business can have a malware attack. There are specialized services available for that. Now, see, one thing, it's a race which is a never-ending race. The more automated we'll become, somebody will find a loophole, because end of the day humans are developing it, right? So it's something that's a continual process. But there are services available where you can subscribe to those services. There are organizations who provide for cyber resilience services. So basically, end of the day, what you want is vulnerability assessment. Are you vulnerable? Where are you vulnerable? So you can have hardware vulnerability, you could have software vulnerability, you could have network vulnerability, you could have device vulnerability. There are vulnerabilities at different levels. You could have backdoor traps in many ways, right? So I think cyber security is a very, very vast subject. It really depends what's your need. But however, there are some fundamental requirements, right? When you build your environment, so that's why I said, one of the benefit I feel going to cloud is you don't have to really worry about all this. This comes there with the service. Your data is secure, your applications are secure. Something goes wrong, there's somebody who's responsible for that, right? When you build your own environment, capital infrastructure, you need to build for all of this. And it doesn't come cheap. It's very, very costly to really talk about all of this, right? To develop in-house. And makes no sense, because you should focus on your business. Let me give you a simple example of London. Transport for London, their cost of revenue administration was 25% of their total cost. Millions of pounds, hundreds of millions of pounds. So 15 years back they realized revenue administration, basic fare collection, is not transportation company's job. We know how to run trains, we know how to run metros and buses, we know how to route them right, get you in time and things like that, but collecting money is bank's job. They can do it the best, right? So they outsourced everything to Barclays. In 15 years, they have reduced the cost of administration, revenue administration, from 25% to 7% now, which is annual savings of £1 billion. That's what specialized and economies of scale can bring you. Why was Barclays able to do that? Because they do it every day. For them, it's one additional service. But for Transport for London, it was a department in itself with hundreds of people doing that job every day, right? So that's the difference. When you go on cloud, that's how you get benefited. You pay only for that small piece of land that you have on the cloud.
Anybody else? Yes.
What are the biggest reskillings which would be implemented within the next decade when the job market would be in a flux with AI and all? So would everybody be required to have some data software knowledge in some format, or how exactly would there be some disruption which would be very difficult to incorporate, and how can we prepare ourselves?
Very difficult question, by the way. Too many things in this. Next one decade, 10 years, we will see a whole new world around us, because there's so much that's happening. Fundamentally, as I said, AI and ML, will it reduce jobs? Answer is no. Anybody who says that is not absolutely understanding the change. Have jobs vanished in last 30 years? No. They were increased, right? We did so much of automation, we increased the job base. We did not decrease the job base. Similarly, AI ML is not going to decrease the job base. It's only going to shift the jobs. See, per factory, the number of people employed will go down, but they will go somewhere else, because they will get skilled to do something else. Now, for example, let me take an example of a city management. Today you have got a lot of people employed in cleaning the roads, maintaining the roads, driving the vehicles, managing that from the control center. All of that's happening. Assuming some of those jobs are taken away by AI. So now scheduler, there are 10 people who are scheduling vehicles, public transport vehicles. With AI you will need 2, right? 8 of them are not needed. What will they do? they will get upskilled to do something else. They will get reskilled to do something more valuable. Now, that's the industry shift. When you look at 10 years, not everybody needs to know programming. That's not the way things will work, right? But knowing IT is imperative, and in fact, I'll tell you, you're naturally getting introduced to IT. When you have a 3-year-old kid, that guy knows how to use Google. Nobody trained that guy. So the intuitiveness in our environment will train them naturally. That's one way to how you interact with your environments, because you are interacting with IT so much. In few years, you will have self-ordering fridge, because every food that you have in your fridge is either understandable by fridge, or it has an ID to it. It has the supplier chain, it has the supply chain, it has the ordering system, it's got everything. So what will happen for the fridge manufacturers or service guys? So there will be people who will be skilled to do something else. What will happen to the ordering system? There will be more supply chains. There will be more hyperlocals. See, that's how the shift is going to happen. God's jobs are not going anywhere. See, we look at how countries are evolving. We've got an estimate which says that 2050 will have 2/3 of India in urban cities. What is the need today? Use the technology to do the reverse shift. Make villages more industrial. Shift jobs from urban to those smaller centers, right? That's going to happen in next 10 years, I can tell you for sure. We will not have large cities, we'll have better cities, more cities. So that's where the new jobs will happen. Now all of these guys who got reskilled will go there and work. So I think the shift is going to be very, very different. Let's be positive. Robots are not taking away our jobs. Thank you.
Sir, how much capital intensive these propositions are? For example, if you use this technology extensively for government services, defense forces, public transport, things like that, what sort of investment do you envisage for a country like this?
See, investment, if I got your question right, is it investment in the country or in a business?
Investment for, say, these sort of services.
It's
I feel that it would be heavily capital intensive.
no, not really. Not really. See, that's what I'm saying. So there's a myth around these technologies that they are very costly, adoption is difficult. It's nothing like that. See, as I said, the apt example is you've got a startup with 4 guys who are developing an algorithm which really changes. WhatsApp was done by 14 guys. So I don't think it is the cost of the technology, it's the appropriateness of technology, the right product selection. It's very important. A lot of us, see, that's why I said information asymmetry is what is killing us.
Sir, can I interrupt? For example, if we take Uber as a case study, my information is that whatever the passenger shells out, the commission that the driver gets, for example, a Uber driver, is almost the same which the Uber service provider gets, because of the satellites and the allied services they have been providing. So we take the similar lines, government services, where there are lots and lots of them which we can put on the cloud, right? So how much capital that would be required for infrastructure development, using of satellites and allied services? That is the question.
Okay, so let me answer it this way. One, there is a clear shift in government also to go to cloud, whether that is privately owned or government owned. We have Meghdoot and all that stuff in India. Infrastructure cost is very subjective. It has to align with the needs of the country as we grow. But it is certainly very costly to build a data center. But as a consumer, if you really see, when I said economies of scales brings down the cost. More and more people going to the cloud, cost per user is going to go down because it's only as much that you're utilizing there, right? More people is reducing the cost. So in country today, Aadhaar on cloud, GST on cloud. Talk about any of the large population scale system, everyone is on cloud. The reason why they are on cloud is ability to expand at will. Otherwise, building physical infrastructure over a period of time, there are constraints, right? Look at FASTag on cloud, millions of transactions every second. So infrastructure is getting created as we speak. It's not only Amazon or Microsoft, or for that matter, few big names that you talk about. There are smaller data center providers, purpose-built data center providers. For example, there are few data center providers or cloud providers who are only giving industrial applications. They are very purpose-built cloud providers. There are certain cloud providers who are only doing certain type of industry, only pharma industry, only machine manufacturing, tools manufacturing industry. So that's why I said in the first slide itself, information asymmetry is what really kills. If you don't have the right information, you don't choose the right product or you don't choose the right technology. So it's for MSME, information asymmetry has to go away. You should have access to the right resources which can augment your business better at the right cost. I think that's.
So regarding the defense forces, once these technologies become popular, what we are going to get rid of conventional war, right? So how do you, in that environment, how do you envisage security point of view, how this problem would be people would be able to tackle?
That's a question above my pay grade, but then I will try to answer that. Very difficult. Because see, tomorrow, obviously everybody is talking about the next war is an information war. It's not going to be physical war. For example, biological is the next warfare. Information is the next warfare. There's no point sending tanks and planes to some country. You just disable their financial network, you're done. Disable their health network, you're done. So obviously, when you develop new technologies, there will be new challenges. As I said, the question from your side. So it's a challenge which it's an everyday challenge. It's not going to go away. We will never have a system which is 100% foolproof. There's somebody who will have capability to pull it down. So that is why when you do digital footprint, you also alongside look at safety footprint. That's something that's going to happen on an ongoing basis. There's no definitive answer to it that there's no one single silver bullet that can be fired and then say, okay, I'm done with it. It's never going to happen because look at, you're building warfare through satellites. You're going to have laser, guided tools in satellites. They can go to whatever extent you can, right? Drones, for that matter. See, I'll tell you, in next 10 years, you will have nanobots. You can channelize these bots in your water stream, and the water we drink, we could have a nanobot getting into us, which is then giving information. And this nanobot is meters. You can't even see it with the naked eye, but it can crawl inside. One application is the medicine delivery in cancer research. They are developing these nanobots. See, because what happens is the cancer therapy is such that it affects your whole body, right? Not only the affected part. And that's why it creates more problems, right? The nanobots will carry medicine which will only go to that cell which is cancerous. Now, that is the positive side of the story. The negative side is it can be warfare. So it's a constant struggle. There's no straight answer to it.
Last question.
How can blockchain
decentralize the cycle? Like,
It's fundamentally decentralized. That's the value of blockchain. It's fundamentally decentralized.
it is said that there is another app instead of Spotify that can allow all the singers to use
Blockchain
them.
contracts. Same digital footprint, decentralized. You can use blockchain tokens, right?
Oh.
Smart contracts can exchange tokens. That's how it can use it.
Oh, oh.
Thank you everybody, and it will form the